Your cow. You just look in the mirror and say the name 3 times. Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls. See, you're scared because you know if you say it a third time, he's gonna show up and shoot you in the face.
You're an animal.
And they were roommates.
God, they were roommates.
To me, and if you, again, I mentioned this, if you look at descriptions of the Bible, a lot of the interactions with angels can almost be looked at as alien encounters with a higher, being of greater knowledge than us. If that's the case, I think that's like, it's very plausible that I wouldn't say plausible, but it's possible that there was some kind of being there trying in some way to warn people. I mean, the movie I'm sure takes massive liberties, and I think probably departs because so let's face it, it's a better movie if it's an evil, entity. So if you take the facts of the case, and then you definitely have to push it that way. If it's just an angel trying to help everybody, it becomes, Highway to Heaven or something. Like it's great, but but anyway, man, yeah. And dude, and to go back to our point, like, if you go to that town now, there's a 12-foot statue of the Mothman in the middle of town, and they have a festival every year. So if you're into this stuff, man, you can go celebrate the Mothman. You can drink on your way there, through Virginia, you can get your rabbit beer, your Bunny Man beer, and you can freaking go to the festival of the Mothman in West Virginia. There's a lot of stuff going on in that little New Jersey, Virginia, West Virginia corridor. All right, man.
Devil's Workshop.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so number five is another one when it's kind of freaked me out a little bit when I never heard this one. It's a variation of kind of some that maybe, yeah, I never heard this version. It's got a huge creep factor. It's kind of the killer in the house trope that we've seen in a lot of movies and stuff. Seen it in Scream. We highlighted Scream in our top 10 movie deaths. In the movie The Stranger Calls, which freaked me out as a kid, and it was Carol King, I think, right? Was it Carol King?
Carol Kane.
She's like young, she's the babysitter, and they start calling the house, and there's all hangups, just like in Scream. But eventually he gets more and more forceful. And then, he says, did you check the children? And then
Goosebumps.
it's really drawn out. It's like a 10-minute scene. And then eventually she's on with the police. And I don't know how all of a sudden the police are like, and it's like her second or third call to police. He's like, we traced the call. He's in the house.
It's
like as a
coming from
kid,
in the house.
what? I was like, I think I ran out of the room when I saw that scene.
Yeah, no doubt.
My house.
No doubt. Because that's 1970, probably 8, maybe 8.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe 80.
Maybe around 80. So it's one of those.
Is that number 5?
That's not number 5. That was just, it's that type of tale. That's what it reminded me of.
All right.
It's like also that friend of a friend tale, but here's the version that's been around since the 50s. I never heard of it. It's called the licked hand. And this is like big with the young kids now, or it's on the internet, TikTok and stuff.
Like licked?
Yeah. So it's the story's told, and I had never heard this before. Told to my daughters, they were a little like weirded out by it, honestly. But it's a young girl, sometimes described as a college student, sometimes described as like an 11, 12-year-old girl. She's home alone at night, just like that. It's the stranger in the house thing. She's feeling uneasy because she either heard like on the radio or the news or whatever that, again, a local asylum patient. So it's not just like a murderer in the area. It's a crazy person, asylum killer on the loose. Lock your doors. And she's got her dog to keep her comfort. And I guess she has this thing where the dog's like licking her or something. And then as she tries to sleep, she hears a sound and she investigates, and she's, nervous, and she kind of like pets the dog. He's laying under her bed, pets the dog, and he's licking her hand, like to reassure her. And again, she hears, and then at some point she hears something again, another time. So she gets up, she goes to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, she finds her dog dead. There's like grosser versions of it, but I'll leave it at that. And then there's two ways it ends. Either on the mirror written in blood is humans can lick too, or there's another version where she's got her hand under the bed. Again, and she's like petting her dog and licking it. And then she looks in her mirror and she sees this crazy
Oh,
guy under the bed licking her.
that's crazy.
That is number 5. An unknown to me makes it all the way up to number 5, the licked hand.
Bro, I got 2 options. So is that a movie? Yeah,
It's not a movie. We should make a movie.
dude, let's do it.
You know,
But what would be even creepier is, she thinks she's getting licked by the dog, and then she looks in the mirror and sees the dog on the bed with her, like sleeping between her legs or something,
yes,
right?
yes. She thinks
Bro,
it's that's great. That's the kind of stuff we need, man. That's excellent. I love that. I just tightened that scene up 100 times. Never been told that way before. Yeah,
good,
it's actually already on you, and then you're like, wait a minute, how can you
right,
be here if you're under there?
right. And what's under there?
And
And
it's
then
panting and stuff. But it's pretty sick. And there's versions where
you hear
the one where it's under the bed, when she sees under the bed, the guy kind of like cackles at her when she sees it. I mean, it's like a short. There's like a lot of these, there's like a million shorts on YouTube, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I took some of the best ones. I'm going to put it in the playlist, so I'll weed them out for you. But there's a lot of, bad ones. But I took a couple of the better ones. Some of them are pretty damn good, man. You get a kick out of them.
that's great. We could do a short as well. But what's interesting about this one is, and I like the creep factor on this, the unknown is always creepy, but this one you could just be, I had never heard it before 5 minutes ago, and you brought it up, and I've got the creep factor going, and you can already tell that it's grown legs over time. Whether, first of all, is it true? Whatever. But second of all, it's got different endings, right? It's got different cadences throughout the entire legend, which is what makes it a legend versus your preamble about when a stranger calls. It is the way it is. You see her face when she's on the phone with the cops, and they say the call's coming from inside the house. And I think I actually saw it in the theater. And I remember just like that whole gasp, like that's not legend, right? Even though who knows if that ever happened in real life, God forbid. But, the fact that that is the way it happened in that movie, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the way it happened. With this licked legend, the licked hand, which is so funny, I think people are taking a little bit of liberty at thinking of different ways, just like you and I just did, right?
And a lot of these do.
Yeah,
A lot of these have multiple endings or multiple versions. They get skewed and changed. I kind of left a lot of it out, but a lot of these have like, versions that involve the internet, or which I didn't find as scary. You're watching this video, and if you watch this video, like all of a sudden there was one in the red room, and you're watching this video, and then if you hear this word, all of a sudden you're in a red room and you're gonna die. Like, I don't know. But it's interesting how they do morph and they change. And listen, like you just changed that, you just made it better by having the dog in the bed. I bet you, dude, I bet you in 10 years, just because of this video now, that's how the story's gonna be. Because it's kind of weird putting your hand under the bed. I guess, maybe she goes down to pat it. I don't know. But yeah, man,
different.
it's a good one, man. And I
That's a
never
good
heard of
one.
it either. And yeah, I
That's a
put it
good
all
one.
up to 5 because, yeah, creepy.
All right.
But
That's
it's
a good
not as
one.
creepy as number 4.
All right, let's go.
This one, dude, this one. So in 1891, the Ouija board,
Love the old ones.
the Ouija board was invented.
Oh, man.
Should we just stop there? I don't even want to talk about this. This is scary. And I have like real life shit that happened to me with this. But
I remember you telling me about that stuff at school.
yes, 1970. So in the 70s, like a lot of them, for some reason in the 70s, a lot of these things kind of blew up. Almost, I saw that pattern. Like all of a sudden, in the 70s, these legends became very, the kids spread around. So I don't know if it was something with our generation that we were able to talk
Hippies.
about that stuff and spread this stuff around. But in 73, one of the films that you featured for the best, oh no, you had The Omen, but we started talking about The Exorcist. But still, in 73, in The Exorcist, Reagan this Ouija board in her basement, and she f's around with it. And next thing you know, she's possessed by the devil and freaking there's priests getting thrown out the window and shit. And it's like the scariest movie of all time. Like a lot of these legends, it's a cautionary tale. Don't fuck around with things that you don't know about. Don't fuck around with the occult, with the devil, with these things that can channel different means, they can attach themselves to you. I mean, I believe that shit. Like I believe that it's
I know you do.
real, that you can open yourself up to it. But for some reason, when I was a kid, we had a fucking Ouija board. And my sister and her friends would play with it. And it's kind of stupid too. Like you're putting your hands on it and you're like, am I moving it? Is she moving it? But it's spelling out words. You're not fighting each other. It spells out real words. So, they'd have sleepovers, but the Ouija board, and the thing is, don't mess with the unknown. It's one of those things that, it's an urban legend that to me, it's not just a legend. I'm telling you, people, don't go out and buy one now after hearing.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of reality. There's a lot of validity to that stuff. I've had a few experiences with that type of thing, whether it was a traditional Ouija board or something similar. Like I mentioned before, I'm into paranormal activity and stuff like that. So, but I also know that I'm a novice when it comes to that. So I don't really mess around. I'm more of an observer and I respect it. And I respect if it is the dead or the unliving or what have you, I respect that. I respect those people. But at the same time, I'm very intrigued by it. Very. Wish I had kind of gone down a little bit of a different path and been more of an investigator in that regard. But I don't know if you remember when we were at school, we talked about this. And I was in this, I was taking a class. I don't remember the name of it, but it was something around mythology, or it wasn't demonology, but it was like something in that, it discussed that stuff.
Came up.
And I brought home a book that I found in the school library. I don't know if you remember this. And this is when you told me about your story with your sister and your experiences there. And we were talking about it, and we were both kind of freaking each other out. And I don't know if it was intentional or not. But the next morning, I don't know if you remember, but in the common area, the book was on the table and it was a little bent. Like the book was bent. You brought it into me and you're like, get this thing out of here. And I brought it back that day. Like I brought it back to the library that day.
Yeah, man.
I was freaked out, man.
I was really nervous about that stuff back then. I still, like you said, I respect it. Yeah, we had I mean, it doesn't even sound that scary, but basically me and my sisters, I can't remember exactly. You might even remember it. I don't remember exactly what we were asking it, but we asked it something to give us like a sign, and our phone it didn't start ringing. It wouldn't ring like ring, ring, because we had the phone on the wall back.
Yeah, the rotary phone, yeah. Yeah.
It never did it before. It never did it since while we were playing the Ouija board. That thing was in the incinerator that night. Like we got rid of it. But I remember being freaked out. I just remember other like stuff with that. I was always afraid of it. It might have been like the one time I did it and that happened. Maybe I'm a channel or something. And I don't want to be one. 'Cause my sisters used to play with her girlfriends would come over for sleepovers and they play it and the phone never rang. None of that shit ever happened. One time I get involved, there was all I was like, but yeah, that's some scary shit. So number 4.
The Ouija board. Let's move on, man. I'm getting creeped out.
All right, so we get up. This one creeps me out, man. This dude, this is scary. This is scary. Number 3. We've come a long way. You can see why Loch Ness and Sassy and Nessie are nowhere near the top. We at number 3, we got the Slender.
Ugh.
Right? Yeah, have you seen pictures of this guy? He is scary. He's tall. These long freaking arms. You always see him like kind of reminds me a little bit of Freddy Krueger, but like even scarier in some ways. It doesn't have
Right.
the and here's the story. Here's like kind of the background. It started as this guy drew this fictional character. But just because it was fictional doesn't mean like again, can something attach itself to this fictional thing. So this guy drew this fictional character, he posted it online. So this is birthed out of the modern age. And he wrote, this guy's name was Victor Surge. It might have been his name, but he wrote along with the picture. We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us. The person that's saying this about the creature, they didn't want to go. They didn't want to kill them, but it's silence. I guess he doesn't say anything. It's outstretched arms, these long arms, horrified them, but also somehow comforted them. And then from that, this legend grew, and he was seen by children and teen lurking in the woods, lurking in dark alleys, in the cities even, and stuff like that. But what really makes this story horrifying is there was these two girls. I want to say they were in Wisconsin, and they killed one of their schoolmates in 2014, and they claimed under oath to the police. These are, young girls. These like 12, 13-year-old girls. They claimed under oath their defense was Slenderman told them to do it. And once that came out, Slenderman was never going away. This is all, you can look up the files of the courts and everything. There's a bunch of other stuff with him out there. If you see him, these things happen to him. But that, to me, is the horrifying part of the story, and why I think number 3 on the urban legend list.
That's when I hear Slenderman, I think Mothman, because I still have Mothman as a villain in my brain, even though I said before, I'm kind of on the fence. But with Slenderman, now I start to think about, I guess when all these urban legends start, like even back in the 1700s and the 1800s, they start and people think something at that moment, right? Like, oh, this is just, Jim Bob making up a story or something. Here, you got Slenderman in the 21st century. The internet changes everything. You've got 2 young kids who, swear on their, on the Bible or something, some other entity told them to do it. It's either, the internet's either educated us enough to make those types of life-changing decisions in life, or it's truly the way it happened. You know what I mean? Like, were these 2 just so naive that, hey, this is our story, we're sticking to it? Or did this thing really happen? And that's what's frightening, right? Like, this is like the Candyman series, like, was that true? Like, what's going on with that? So I think Slenderman is our generation's beginning of folklore, of that urban legend. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Of course, we'll be gone, but in 100 years, what people are saying about Slenderman.
Probably be around. I bet you it'd be around, but we'll see. We'll see. All right.
All right. Number 2.
Yeah, that's a scary one, man. I don't know. Takes us to number 2. Number 2 is a classic. It's got a creep factor. It's not as like frightening as the last 2, but it's got a creep factor. Again, this is another one where there's a ton of stuff on TV. I'll get to in a second, like where they've done versions of it, and in the movies even. But it's the dead girl, usually, or sometimes guy, but it's usually the dead girl car ride. A lot of times they get dropped at the cemetery. But the story is basically this. This is the basic story, and there's a lot of versions, but like this is one of the ones where it's morphs a million things. But the guy picks up the girl, hitchhiking, or she's broken down or something like that. He brings her to the home. She leaves something in the car, like maybe a scarf or something. And then she goes to the home, and he realizes that, oh, she forgot her scarf. Knocks on the door, and the parents answer. Oh, he's like, oh, I just dropped off, your daughter. She left her scarf in my car. Our daughter's been dead for 2 years. How could you say that? And he's like, well, she just left a scarf. And they go and show him the picture, and it's the same girl. And where'd you pick him up? It's the spot where she was killed, and all this stuff. And there's a version where she dropped cemetery. There's a bunch of different versions. That was the one I thought was the best version. So you remember Kojak, Telly Savalas. This guy was a huge star, and he went on some talk show. I think it was in Europe, though, but he went on some talk show, and he tells the story, and he swears them down as true. And it was before he was famous, and he was doing some work, and he was in Long Island. think he lived in Queens or something, but he had a gas. He was like screwed. He had a job he had to get to. Some guy, gave him money for the gas. Telly said, "Hey, look, I don't have any money on me, but I'll pay you back." Blah blah blah. He insisted. The guy was like, "No, no, no, don't worry about it." But he insisted. The guy had like a weird voice, could barely get his voice out. It was very high pitched. He called it an effeminate voice. That's how Telly's described it. And he, eventually got the address from the guy. And then the guy went off. He got his gas. He went and did his thing. Then, like a week later, he went to the house. He swears this is true. And he said he went to the house, and again, a woman answers the door, and he says, "Hey, your husband picked me up and gave me money for gas, whatever. I just want to return it and stuff." And she's like, "Same thing. My husband's been dead for, this many years." And they described the car. It was the car that matched. And
God.
then evidently the guy killed himself by like shooting himself in the neck, which is why he had a hard time talking, supposedly. So again, it's another version. It's a version of that story, but Telly Savalas tells it like it happened to him. And it's the kind of thing, like, why would he was telling this as a famous person, like, why would he, make something up like that? Sometimes you just believe, like, he was in a spot, and this guy spirit for some reason was still here, and he helped him. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. And, the ones that are unprompted and, people they have they want to share a story because it's something that impacted their life and they're not gaining anything from it. Where some of these urban legends you might argue are to drum up business, like who goes to Point Pleasant, West Virginia? I don't think the whole town was in on the Mothman thing to drum up business, but who knows? But like with something like this where the person's unprompted and they have this type of experience is, I don't know, it's harder to find a reason why they would be making this shit up versus, that this is way before the internet. Telly Savalas is a 70s guy, right? This wasn't a tabloid thing. I know that I've been to a medium a couple of times in a group setting,
Really?
and my experience was profound. We should probably do an episode on that because
Oh, man.
we could do it with the Amityville horror conversation and the story about that book. I'll never forget that. I'm surprised you don't remember, man, when that thing was bending and it was.
I don't remember, man, but
We were drinking every night, so
yeah, it's a whole part. But that's yeah. I mean,
that's this type of stuff.
for,
That's a good one to put up in the top three, definitely.
I'm glad it's midday right now, because if it was 9 o'clock at night, I'd be freaked out. Um, as this, the again, it's another one with the moral, picking up strangers, but no one really gets hurt in either of those stories. The cool thing about it too, I just want to mention, there's like a lot of good versions of this online. So there's Dead End, which is just a movie that's kind of plays on this trip a little bit. There's The Hitcher, which was big when we were in high school again, which again, it's not really related, but the dangers he picks up, does a good deed, and picks up a hitchhiker, and freaking
Rutger Hauer, right?
all hell breaks loose.
I almost picked that movie scene. Remember when Rutger Hauer puts the girl chains her between two trucks and just pulls her apart?
Yeah. I mean,
They
Rutger
don't.
Hauer was sick in that.
Yeah, he was sick.
And who was the lead guy? He was a pretty big star too.
Yeah, what was his? He's got that
C.
face.
Thomas Howell,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah.
And he was really good in that, man. It was a good movie. Like it didn't. I saw that. I think that was one I saw in the movies, and it was a really good. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's go.
Well, wait. I just want to mention. I want to mention too. Twilight Zone. There's a Twilight Zone episode we're checking out, and we'll put a link to all this into our playlist below. But there's a Twilight Zone episode. Check that out. It's a hitchhiker. She keeps appearing on her journey multiple times.
Yeah,
Wherever she goes.
the old Twilight Zone,
The
the
old
black and white.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
The show. And I think Hitchcock directed this one too.
And
it's
he's going my way.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
creepy.
Is that it? I think that is it.
Going my way.
I think that's it. You remember that one? And
Yeah.
he's basically gotten her to the afterlife. So pretty crazy. And then Highway to Heaven, I mentioned that earlier. It's like a lot of that was him hitchhiking and then helping people that were picking him up along the way. So
Did you
anyway,
see
all right.
that? Did you see that light?
I saw, it looked like a person. I'm not kidding,
Dude,
dude.
I'm in the basement. There's nobody down here.
Dude, there was something.
Dude,
I thought somebody came in. I was like, oh shoot, so they ruined the shot.
I am freaked out right now.
I'm watching. I got your back, dude. I'm watching your back. That is crazy, dude. Dude, I think we're finally going viral because
I can hear Lisa upstairs. I'm like sweating right now.
what is that? There's like a window there
No, it's just a opening.
to what?
Where's my
To another room?
Yeah, just to the other side.
There was there was.
Dude, if I unblur this,
I mean,
holy
I'll
shit.
watch your back.
Dude,
If I see something again, I'll tell you. Turn around, Tone. They're coming for you.
don't say that shit.
We're up to number 1, brother. 1 to go.
I am freaked out right now.
Oh, this is internet gold right now. This is it. We're finally gonna be viral. All right, number 1. Featured on Supernatural, which I've never seen that show, but evidently has a huge following with the younger generation. Featured on the X-Files. Turned into recently a Lady Gaga song, or maybe not so recently. Rift in the Candyman. You mentioned the Candyman earlier. Rift by the Candyman. I know it's probably my favorite hair of the dog recipe. Number 1, coming in at number 1 at the top of the charts. We have the one, the only Bloody Mary.
She is.
Bloody Mary. Don't say it 3
Don't
times.
say it
brother.
3 times,
You do
man.
not want to go there. Do you ever see the Biggie?
Somebody did.
I'm telling you, if that was a mirror, I thought so, I was like, oh, I was like, we're making a podcast here. What are they doing?
You're gonna have to when you play that back. You got to post that because
Yeah. Well,
you could
yeah,
see.
I mean,
I went like this.
you heard something?
No, I saw it.
You saw it.
I
Yeah.
saw it in my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
preview.
I don't know, brother. Yeah.
All right.
All right, so let me just talk a little bit about it. Let's do some of the background. This is like this is a great one. Everyone knows Bloody Mary. The cool thing, there's a lot of cool stuff about this. One, this thing goes all fables are often cautionary tales. The mirror on the wall. I mean, it really goes back to that. This mirror thing. There was also there was this thing that women did in the 1700s and the 1800s where they would take a mirror and a candle. They'd either walk backwards or they would do different things, but same thing, darken room, and they would see the face that they would see would be their future husband. But if they didn't, if they saw a skeleton, it meant they would never marry. God forbid, like back in those days. Now nobody cares, but back then, you needed some. It's a whole thing. The name is possibly tied to Mary Worth, a witch executed in 1800s, but more likely tied to Mary, Queen of Scots, also known as Queen Mary I, who executed hundreds of Protestant people, therefore earning the nickname amongst the Protestants, Bloody Mary. And in Japan, they have a similar legend, Hanako-san, who haunts school bathrooms. Maybe started to keep the kids out of the bathrooms from doing like American kids, smoking in the boys' room, right? But that's the Japanese legend. And then, we and me were talking about this earlier, but South Park, the guy summoned Biggie Smalls by saying Biggie Smalls 3 times in the mirror. I never was a big South Park guy. Like, I liked it. It was just one of those things I never got to it. I was watching. I mean, it's hysterical. It's really politically incorrect, but it's really funny.
Okay. You just look in the mirror and say the name 3 times. Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls. See, you're scared. Because if you say it a 3rd time, he's gonna show up and shoot you in the face.
And again, it's another one I remember when I was a kid. My sister and her friends would have sleepovers. And they would go in the bathroom one at a time. I didn't dare do it. I was scared shitless. They were a little older than me, but I was scared to death. But they would go in there and with a candle in the dark and say it 3 times and stare at it until you can't look away. I guess the legend is if you look away, she could get your soul, or she might drag you in the mirror, or she'll scratch your face or whatever, or put a demon on you. But so the point is you have to keep staring at her. And if you keep staring, she will appear. And, people have been doing it for years. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's actually, and this is, I think, really cool. Bloody Mary, of all these on the top 10 list, is real.
Really?
It's real, dude. If you look in a mirror in the dark with a candle and say it 3 times, you don't have to say it 3 times. If you just stare in a mirror in the dark, you will see her. It's a scientific thing. It's known as dissociative identity effect. So I hate to ruin it for everybody, but it's a real thing where, and they did this test where they put like a 25-watt bulb. So it's not, that's pretty low, but it's not nothing. And if you take a 25-watt bulb and you just stare at yourself in the mirror, at your own image where you can see yourself, your face will start to change eventually before your own eyes. Either, your face might deform into something more evil or even not evil, but a lot of times it'll deform. The way our faces are created, if you just change it a little bit, it becomes scary. If you just move your nose away, it's scary. So as soon as it deforms, you see this scary image. Some people, in this experiment, people saw, an old person, or they saw, an unrecognizable creature. If you're expecting to see Bloody Mary, you might see a woman. You know what I mean?
Right.
If that's your
Right.
expectation, the mind is powerful. That's it. So it really actually works.
That's crazy.
Now, if you're going to throw Bloody Mary's name in there too, I would advise you not to personally, but I'm a chicken shit. But if you do that, you open yourself up to these channels like the Ouija board channel, maybe not, but it is fun to do this stuff. But at number one, Bloody
Bloody Mary times 3.
Mystery, we won't
You're,
say.
you're a chicken shit. Here's the guy who made Ghost in the Graveyard. Well, I think so. This one, when we talk about like the scientific explanation, there's a lot of these things that come up on social where it's like stare at this dot and it's like a purple dot, and then go look at something on the wall and you see a picture of a person. Like there's science there. There's going on with the eyes and the brain and stuff. But one just came up a few days ago, maybe even last week, where it was 2 images of people's faces just rifling through, just like different people's faces, and you could see them. And if you looked at them, they were normal, like me and you, like they're just normal faces. But if you looked in the mirror in the middle, they were horrifying. Like, but then if you looked real quick back to see if they changed it, they were normal. So there's something scientific there that's actually really cool if you could intentionally play tricks on your own mind. But with the Bloody Mary, that's been going on for years. I remember my kids would do that, and they'd go in the basement and have a sleepover or whatever, and you hear them doing it and screaming and yelling and running upstairs.
Well,
I think it's more of like you're playing tricks on your own mind. You're fucking with yourself. Sorry,
the
kids.
fun of it. That is the
Yeah, that's
fun
the
of it.
fun of it.
Like as a group, like all freaking yourselves out together.
I
But
just gotta,
then if
I
you
gotta,
gotta,
I
like
gotta
in the
unblur this.
in the South Park episode, like they're all, let's do this. But then when it comes to actually saying it 3 times, they're all like chicken shit.
Yeah,
They're all
exactly.
chicken shit. One of them craps his pants. Then Biggie Smalls does appear.
Come on.
He does appear, and he
My
starts
God.
blowing people's heads off. What's happening?
No, I'm,
Bloody Mary's
I want,
getting blown. We said she's scientific. She does not like this.
well, no, that was me. That was me, everybody. But what I was trying to do is unblur this so I could show you what's actually back here, but I don't know. Why can't I unblur the background?
I mean, I don't, at this point, I don't want an explanation. I want to believe that what were we talking about at that point? We were talking about the visitors, right? The strangers.
Yeah,
Maybe
like,
there's somebody,
don't even, man. Yeah, but I want to show it because what's going to happen is people are going to be like, that was fake. He set it up and it's blurry. But I don't know. How do you do,
I mean, they can say what they want, man. There's no way, brother. That was
was
legit.
crazy.
So that's our
Oh, you
top
can't,
10, brother.
it says you can't change visual effects while you're recording.
Okay.
You folks are going to have to believe back there is it's just an opening to another room, and there's nobody over there.
I can't wait to watch the playback.
You could see it because I was like, "What the fuck?"
You know,
I don't know, man.
tell me, maybe it was just Lisa poking her head in.
No, because I could hear her on the phone upstairs.
Okay.
She's working upstairs, and there's nobody else here.
Well, evidently there's somebody else there, brother. So you better.
Why are you gonna do that? It's the lick hand lick.
Well, thank you. All right, man. Well,
All right, there it is.
There it is. Top 10 urban legends.
Don't forget to subscribe, please. It means a lot to us. We appreciate everyone watching.
Spread the word. We'll keep bringing you more content. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching.
See ya.
You're an animal.
And they were roommates.
God, they were roommates.